Am I the a-hole for explaining the consequences of his actions to my son? My family lives in Canada. This is important. My kid was being bullied at school. He is a big kid, and I have always told him to resolve his problems with words. I've told him to report bullying to teachers, and if they don't listen, to tell the principal. I've also told him to tell me and his mom so we can follow up. My son's after-school program is a taekwondo class, also important. He's been in taekwondo since kindergarten, and he also plays hockey. There's a group of kids at his school who have been a-holes to my kid and his friends. My kid did the right thing and told the teacher monitoring recess. She told him that the kids were new to Canada and didn't know how to fit in yet. He went to the principal and was told pretty much the same thing. So he told his mom. She wanted to confront the parents and likely would have ended up in custody. She's Irish, like real Irish from Ireland, not Marky Mark Irish. I told her I would take care of it. I made an appointment to talk to the principal and the teacher, along with my son. I went into the meeting with a simple goal, to stop the bullying. The principal and teacher both tried the same excuse on me, that these kids were newcomers and weren't fully aware of how Canada is different from their home country or what they see on American TV. I asked what was being done to stop it. They said they had talked to the boys. I asked if the parents had been brought in and spoken to. He said no. Okay. So I turned to my kid and explained that in Canada, kids under 12 years old cannot be charged with a crime. In fact, they can't even be arrested. Worst case scenario, if anything happened, he might have to do some community service. The principal and teacher went crazy, telling me that I couldn't tell him that. I asked them if I was lying. They both shut up. I pointed to them and told my kid to remember that they didn't say I was wrong. I told him to tell me in a week if he was still being bullied. My understanding is that all of the bullies' parents were called in and told to control their children. The bullies were also given library detention instead of recess for a month. I'm satisfied with the result, but the teacher and principal seemed upset. My wife thinks I should have given him the information privately. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. This is hilarious. Not the a-hole. Heck, I'd say you tell your kid to be a little too passive against bullies depending on circumstances. I'm American, and I love that this was the fastest end to school bullying. Hopefully anyway. Not the a-hole. It's over. My kid is only 10, but he is the same size as his 13-year-old cousins. They tried messing with him when they were playing hockey. They play nice now. You handled it perfectly. Saying that to your son in front of the teacher and principal was fantastic. If you had told your son in private, I'll just bet that the principal and teacher would not have called in the parents. Your son would have continued to be bullied. Good for you. Or he would have been expelled. I'm a Canadian teacher. We aren't allowed to expel kids. Like, at all, in my district. You played this right. Not the a-hole. I'm also Canadian and I've worked as a consultant in the school system. The school simply did not care to step in and act because they hate having to deal with parents and telling them their kids are a-hole bullies. No, seriously, this is the reason. I've interviewed and had dozens of meetings across multiple schools and teams. This is the chief common factor. You didn't encourage violence. You just simply explained the legal reality of things after the school repeatedly failed to protect your kid. The moment administrators hide behind excuses instead of stopping bullying, parents are allowed to be blunt. The fact that action only happened after that conversation proves the system wasn't working. They are clearly the a-holes, and you definitely escalated the situation to where it needed to be for them to act. When I was growing up, there was a different group in my city as refugees, and their parents were awesome. I'm still friends with some of those guys. But man oh man, the kids from that group were well behaved. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife to rehome the dog and leaving when she wouldn't? I work from home full-time. I only need to go into our physical office once a month. That day is always the last Friday of the month unless it's a holiday, but you get the idea. My wife, Angela, works part-time retail. It's fine, because we discussed it and agreed that she would be a stay-at-home mom when we had kids. So she contributes what she can to the household and has her own money for whatever extras she wants, besides her share of our budget. In December, my monthly meeting ended up being on a Monday because of how the calendar worked out. I booked myself a hotel for Sunday night and drove into the city. When I got home that evening, my wife had a surprise. She had rescued a puppy, not officially from a registered place or anything. A neighbor had a litter, and she took the last puppy, a coon-hound mix. A pretty enough dog, but not my cup of tea. We had agreed on getting a dog eventually. She had also spent a bunch of her own money and bought a kennel and other dog supplies. She looked very proud of herself and named the dog Trudy. Trudy is very cute, but also very loud. She howls a lot. It's usually fine because Angela would go to her and pay attention to her, and she would quiet down. But on the days Angela works, Trudy needs to be in the kennel, which she very vocally dislikes. Trudy can't roam the house because she's a puppy and therefore somewhat destructive, and she isn't house-trained. We can't just leave her outside because, although we have a fenced yard, there are coyotes to worry about. I suggested moving the kennel to our heated garage. That was deemed unacceptable because we would need to move it back into the house at night. Trudy has become a pain in my butt during this cold snap because my wife won't walk her in the cold and icy conditions. To be fair, those conditions are very rare for our area. The next issue is my office. My wife was very good about respecting my workspace, so I usually kept the door open. The only time I closed it was during meetings. Trudy explores, so I started closing the door all the time. Angela doesn't like that, and Trudy scratches to try to get in. I am beginning to understand what my life will be like if we have a kid. So I told Angela that we weren't ready for a dog, and that she needed to either step up and make our home a place where I could work, rehome the dog, or I would go back to working in the office, which would mean me being gone from Sunday night until Friday night. Angela said none of those were reasonable choices because she's trying to train Trudy, but it isn't working. I locked up my office on Sunday and got a room at a local hotel. It's great, it's quiet, and I can work in peace. Angela found out I didn't go to the city almost immediately and called me so many times that I had to block her. She says that rumors are starting. I gave her one other option. She gets a full-time job and pays for doggy daycare out of her budget. She said it was ridiculous to work just to pay for that. So that's where we are this Tuesday morning. Edit. A couple of questions before I get back to work. If I were a mechanic, who would be responsible for watching a baby while I was at work? I never agreed to this dog. Why should I be responsible for paying for everything related to her? I paid for the vet and everything so far. Why should I pay for daycare? Not the a-hole. Impulse pet buyers are the worst. I grew up with that nonsense. This won't be the last time she pulls that. Couldn't agree more, sir. Also, OP, don't forget, she unilaterally brought home a high-energy puppy while you work from home, and then made it your problem. Blocking her was dramatic, but leaving for peace makes sense. This screams poor communication and zero planning. My ex-husband brought home a dog from the shelter after I clearly said no. He left the dog with me when we divorced. If my husband brought home a dog without telling me, I would lose it. So you're not the a-hole here. I work from home in tech, and I need a quiet place to work. I absolutely cannot stand distractions when I'm working. Having said that, break up anyway, because you don't seem to like her much. It's very clear from the way you write about her. I'm a dog trainer. My husband would probably rather chew off his right arm than see my reaction to an unapproved puppy. We have 4 pets of various species. Dogs are the #1 hardest to do right. I'd prefer a surprise mini horse. And frankly, a surprise puppy is the worst of all, because it's pretty similar to having a baby. A surprise adult rescue dog would at least have been much less work. Next story. Am I wrong for telling my mom she's on her own with her pregnancy? Okay, so my mom is 46. She had all of us when she was young, so now her kids are all grown. I'm 30, my brother is 27, my sister is 24, and my youngest brother just turned 20. She met some guy a few months back and they were hooking up. Well, now she's pregnant and shocker, the guy wants nothing to do with it. He blocked her on everything and disappeared. She's decided to keep the baby, which is fine. That's her choice. But she's already started talking about how we're all going to need to help out because pregnancy at her age is harder and raising a newborn alone is going to be tough. And she can't do it without us. Like, what? I have 3 kids under 7. My brother has 2 toddlers. My sister lives in another city. My youngest brother is in the middle of his degree and barely has time to sleep, let alone babysit. None of us live with her. We all have our own stuff going on. And she's acting like this is going to be some big family project where we all pitch in constantly. I finally just told her straight. I said, "Mom, I love you, but this is your decision. We're not going to abandon you completely, but you need to understand that none of us can be there all the time. We have our own lives and our own responsibilities. If you want this baby, you need to be prepared to handle it mostly on your own." She got really upset and said she's always been there for us, and now when she needs us, we're turning our backs on her. But that's not what's happening. We're just being realistic about what we can actually offer. Am I wrong for being honest with her about this? She's grown and made a grown decision. You being honest now saves everyone the drama later. Exactly this. Better to set expectations now than have everyone resenting each other when reality hits, and nobody can actually help as much as she's expecting. She's almost 50 years of age. She is too old to be acting like this. She's too old to be having another damn baby. She'll be almost 70 before the kid is even out of high school. Exactly. And it's not just about age. It's about energy, resources, and realistic expectations. Raising a kid takes a lot, and acting like it's no big deal at almost 50 with no real plan isn't fair to anyone, especially not the future kid. She decided to have kids. You guys didn't have a choice in that. Her being there was part of her responsibility that came with that choice. She's making that choice again at almost 50. She can't use, "Well, I raised you," to get you guys to do the dirty work of raising her late-life love child. I'm 43 with an 8, 14, and 15-year-old. Your mom's crazy if she thinks everyone is going to put their lives on hold to raise her baby. She's crazier to think of having it. Just my opinion, but God, I don't have a quarter of the energy I had with my older two when they were 8, compared to what I have now with my youngest. Not the a-hole. Last story. Update. Am I the a-hole for announcing my pregnancy at Thanksgiving? Original post. My husband and I recently found out that we're pregnant. We are really excited about the news, but we wanted to wait until the end of my first trimester to make sure everything was going well with the pregnancy. So we decided to announce our pregnancy at Thanksgiving when the whole family was together, so that we could tell everyone at once. I only told 2 people in my family, and I knew they could keep a secret. Besides that, no one else knew. As soon as we made the announcement, one of my sisters broke down crying and was very upset. She wanted to know first and was upset that I didn't tell her, since she always told me about all of her pregnancies first. However, my sister cannot keep a secret. She's a constant gossiper, especially with family. I told her first when I got into graduate school, and she told my parents before I could. She announced my engagement to my mom before I had the chance. So my husband and I decided to keep it a secret, especially until we knew everything was healthy with the baby. I knew that if I told her first, she would tell everyone in the family, and it would really upset me if I found out my whole family knew before I wanted them to. After she realized at the dinner table that I didn't tell her first, she started full-on crying. After that, she went after other people in my family, my parents, and my other siblings. Everyone became agitated and emotional, and it made Thanksgiving upsetting for everyone. Honestly, it made me feel bad during what should have been a happy announcement. So am I the a-hole for not telling her first, even though she always told me about her pregnancies first? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. You gave her multiple chances to prove she could be trusted with important news. And each time she broke that trust. Trust is earned, not given. She's making this beautiful moment about herself rather than being happy for you and allowing everyone to celebrate. I'm sorry she made you feel guilty for doing what you wanted, which was a wonderful idea. Well said. And let her know why you didn't tell her. Let her know she's broken your trust before and that you didn't want it to happen again, so you played it safe. Not the a-hole. And now you know she's going to ruin every moment, as well as share the news before you want her to. So I guess now she won't hear at family gatherings either, since she can't keep her emotions in check and not make everything about herself. From now on, you will not only have to tell everyone before, now you have to make sure she doesn't get the news in a group setting or at an event. Don't let emotionally immature people hold you hostage. Info. Can you explain more about how she went after other people in my family? They were just overall agitated and crying? I can't figure out what happened at that point. She left shortly after dinner. I thought she had calmed down, but I heard her calling my parents and yelling at them. My parents hurried and shut the door and wouldn't talk to me about it. I know she was texting my other siblings because they would break down in tears, and one of them said my sister was being very rude. Another family member had a conversation with her about the baby announcement and ended up having a full-on panic attack and had to take anxiety medication. No one in my family will tell me exactly what she said to them. I don't know if it's to protect me or something else. Wow. So not only did she turn into a drama queen at the event, she continued to tantrum throughout the night. It sounds like she needs to be on a strict information diet at the very least. Sister needs some intense therapy and/or a new personality. Wow. Not the a-hole. Hopefully, obviously. Now for the update. I wanted to update everyone about what happened after I announced my pregnancy on Thanksgiving and upset my sister. I found out what she had been calling family members about. Apparently, she doesn't like my husband and hasn't for a long time. She made up stories about how he didn't say hi to her at Thanksgiving, but I was there and heard him say hi. She also said he didn't play with her children, but multiple people saw him playing with her kids and all the other children. I believe she said other things about my husband as well, but this is all I was able to confirm from other family members. Since then, it has put strain on my relationship with my family. No one really calls or talks to me anymore. I recently found out they are planning a family vacation for a family member's 40th birthday. My sister called to tell me that I was not invited and said the family planned it for shortly after my due date. She said no one reached out to invite me because they assumed I wouldn't want to go anyway, since my due date is a few weeks before. Even though the birthday isn't for another 5 months, they planned it to fall just weeks after the baby is due. At this point, I have no contact with my sister and very little contact with my family. I'm not close with them anymore, and they haven't reached out to ask about the baby or include me in family events. Right now, I'm focusing on my husband, my baby, and myself.